Welcome to At Home and Abroad with Harris and Walker. Join us each week as we follow our curiosity, diving deep into the familiar and the foreign. Reach beyond your front door as we uncover new perspectives, explore intriguing ideas, and have real conversations with the best guests. Ready for something different? Let's get started. To start us off, Harris, I have a quotation for you from the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine, a critical text in the study of traditional Chinese medicine.
Oh, okay.
To fight a disease after it has occurred is like trying to dig a well when one is thirsty, or forging a weapon once a war has begun.
Oh, wow. That's something we probably don't want to believe, right, Walker? But I think there's some truth to it. It certainly gives you pause.
Yeah, I have to say I'm pretty excited about this topic today. You know, I'm pretty much feast or famine when it comes to my own health. Sometimes I'm really good about sleeping and getting the water in and maintaining my stress. And other times,
not so much.
Not so much. I have to say
too.
my body starts to fall apart and then I have to scramble to get back on track again. Right now, currently, I am not on track.
No, I'm kind of hanging on by the fingernails over
in
here.
The ditch.
In the ditch. Oh, that's not good, Walker. But you're not alone. Many of us struggle, right? Me too, me included. That quote, though, really hits home. We don't want to find ourselves fighting disease or illness down the road and regret it because we had poor health habits.
So true.
Right? I think today's episode is the prescription that maybe we've all been waiting for. Jane Lee, certified yoga and meditation teacher and medical qigong practitioner, is joining us today to help us get back on track. Jane offers energy well-being sessions, personalized well-being coaching, as well as courses and instruction in both yoga and meditation at her practice, Purely Jane, for peace of mind, body, and soul. Welcome to At Home and Abroad, Jane.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Lauren.
It's very, very nice to have you here, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So it hasn't been an entirely easy path that you have traveled to get to this point in your career as an energy healer. Do you mind sharing a little bit with us about your journey?
Yeah, it's I think everybody has their own story, but it wasn't anything I ever intentionally got into. So I was in the corporate world for most of my career in marketing, digital, and strategy. And then about 5 years ago, when I was going for fertility treatments to try to have a second child, they found something and I ended up being diagnosed with colon cancer. I was in my 30s at the time. And the very same day I got the diagnosis, I also got offered a job to be VP of a new digital bank. And I'd been going for that job for about 8 months. So it was within 1 hour of each other.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. When I hung up the phone on the job offer, I kind of just threw my hands down and looked up. And I felt like the universe was asking me, what are you going to choose now? Are you going to choose your health or are you going to choose your career again? And I really didn't know what I was going to do. So I went to the hospital that day. I went back to meet the team that I was going to work with the next week. And after a few days of letting everything settle in, because it was shocking in the beginning for me, I finally decided to turn down the job offer. And I went on medical leave at work because I just couldn't focus. My mind wasn't there. And I started figuring out what I was going to do with my health. And I had always been very open to different holistic healing practices. I'd already been a yoga teacher for a number of years. So I had felt that I could heal it myself. And that prospect frightened my siblings and my mom, my parents. But my husband was very supportive. And even if he was scared, he just said, whatever you choose to do, I'm going to support you. So I was taking my time to weigh what I was going to do. And one day I was putting my daughter down and she was about 4 years old. And I thought, what if I'm not here to put her down in the future to bed? Yeah. So I decided at that point, okay, I'm going to have the surgery that they recommended. But from the time I was diagnosed to the time my surgery was scheduled was 6 weeks. And I dove headfirst into a ton of different holistic practices and healing practices, yoga, meditation. I went vegan, cut off sugar, acupuncture, Reiki work, and some maybe a very interesting story I'll say later on. And I did a lot of inner work as well, trying to understand, why did I get this in the first place? And what can I do to help remove it? Then I got the surgery. And when the biopsy came back from the surgery, there was nothing there. So,
You're kidding.
No. So I actually didn't need the surgery, but I am grateful for it and everything, because it forced me to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't have, I would have just went right back to work, thrown myself back into my career and not slowed down. And I was being told very forcefully I needed to slow down and pay attention to myself. So in the next coming weeks and months, I did a lot more inner work, continued my yoga, my meditation practices. And when I was cleared to go back to work, I felt like, no, I can't go back to work. I know from the doctors, they say I'm healed, but I don't feel healed at all. So I decided to stay off of work. I quit and continued working on healing myself. And I went to a meditation retreat during this time, I think before I quit. And I went into a very deep meditation. And during that meditation, it was outside and we were walking. I randomly started I call it throwing energy balls, because I didn't know what to reference it to, but I just started like throwing my hands and like basically doing random energy healings on people. And I was in such a deep state. I would do energy healings. I'd leave the person slumped over and I just walk away and go to the next one. Wasn't necessarily, that's not the best way to do it, because I didn't know what I was doing. But I knew that I tapped into something different, and I was kind of wondering, what is going on? I went back to my hotel room, and without any thinking, my body was moved to roll up my yoga mat, started going to all these different asanas, and I started realizing this is how yoga was created. It wasn't something intellectually created from the human mind. It was channeled through the body. And so when I came back from that retreat, my practice started changing. And instead of thinking about what I was going to do in my practice, I just intuited it. I just channeled my yoga and meditation practice, and it completely changed. And so that evolved, and my teaching evolved, because I'd already been a yoga teacher for a while. My teaching evolved to be intuitive. And I wanted to learn about what was I doing, because when I was working with clients or students, sometimes I would start doing healing. I'd be moved to put my hands, and I knew I could feel the energy, but I didn't have the theory behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to understand, what's the theory behind what I'm doing, so I can understand it. And so that's when I took a medical qigong, couple of courses, and became a certified medical qigong practitioner. And the more I know, the more I realize how little I know.
That just says it all right there. I think that it is something that we're just scratching the surface of and tapping into. And certainly it sounds like you are a little further ahead, in your own individual journey. It sounds to me like your encounter with cancer really was a message, like you said, from the universe to sort of, take stock of your life and pay attention to your spiritual well-being as well as your physical well-being. When you came to the point where you were on this retreat and you realized that you had this healing ability with energy, how did that make you feel? Were you surprised by it? Were you taken aback, or was it something that just came to you very naturally?
I was scared by it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was happening, because that was the first time I didn't feel like my human mind was moving my body and doing things. And so it was very out of my element. It wasn't anything I knew before. So it scared me. I was frightened by it. I talked to my team leader about it at the meditation retreat and talked to different people about it. And because that's why I started exploring, because I wanted to learn and understand what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
You think people hear all these different stories of being possessed and whatnot. And I was like, what is happening to me? But
Right.
the more I learned, the more I understood and the less scared I was. And I learned you always have control. So you have to understand that you have control, and it is important to go in with the right mindset and in the right state of mind in terms of feeling. Because if you are coming in with a nervous, scared feeling, you're going to attract that energy, and that's going to move through you. So you have to come in as calmly as possible and as connected and as grounded as possible. So learning practices to help ground, center, and for lack of a better word, kind of protect, and then going into connecting with the channels, the energies, have helped. But yeah, it was a scary experience because it was unknown to me.
Yeah, so novel. And it's what you said about it not coming from your human mind was so poignant, because it's something it's so much more and so much more beyond our cognition.
Yeah.
Did you have anybody at any point who helped you understand this ability, or helped you learn that you could control this healing power?
Yeah. So this is not something that is just unique to myself or other healers. It is innate within all of us. It's a matter of us being able to connect to it and harness it. And I had just gotten to that point where I was able to do that. So it's not something unique to me. So when I came back, I went to a qigong master, and she gave me some explanations because I told her about my fear of not being able to control it. And she told me, you are always in control and you have to be able to control it. And then talking with people like a cousin of mine who's a Reiki master, just doing reading, research. And then when I did the qigong courses, that helped me with my master there as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And qigong itself, it's an ancient practice. It's a 5,000-year-old plus practice, and it's related to qi, our own vital energy. Is that right?
Yes.
So I'm very, very new to it, but even practicing it in the short time that I have felt benefits. So can you describe to us what's happening in our bodies when we practice qigong?
So qigong literally means qi is energy, and you can translate that as life force energy or vital energy. And gong means like work or a skill or a practice. So you can translate it as energy work or cultivating energy or the ability to work with energy. And so when you are practicing qigong, you are cultivating your energy. You are helping to move and balance your energy. We are all made of energy. There's energy that sustains us and animates us, and that's qi, our life force energy. And when you do your movements in qigong, or whether it's something you're just doing as a meditation or your breath work, you're helping to move the energy to help balance it.
If our energy is not balanced, if our qi is not balanced, this can be manifested as illness or unwellness or disease. So how can we return it to balance with a practice like qigong, or as you mentioned, meditation or even yoga?
Yeah, I always like to tell people when your energy is flowing, it is at ease. When your energy is not able to move and flow well, you're at dis-ease, which causes disease. So disease happens when your energy is not balanced, when it's not flowing, when you have an excess of energy or stagnated energy or deficiency in energy. So when you do the work, whether it's qigong, it's a physical practice, or it's a meditation or breath work, you are learning to cultivate, harness, and move that energy. And the energy itself has its own intelligence. You don't even have to think, I'm going to move this energy to my certain organ here and help balance it. Although when you do that, helps and makes it more full, adds more to it. But even without your human intelligence, the chi has an intelligence to know where to flow. Just like how water will always find the path of least resistance, the chi will find where it needs to go.
Right. Wow, that's so interesting. So yoga, it's kind of been adopted as a fitness regimen in Western culture, but it really is much more than that. It is also a spiritual and meditative practice. How does yoga fit into this construct of allowing our energy to balance and to find wellness?
So to me, all of these practices are all one and the same. And I know they may look very different and sound very different and present very differently to people, but at the root of it, to me, it's the same because it's the union of the mind, body, and soul. And yoga literally means to yoke, or the union, and it's of mind, body, and soul. And you do the same thing with qigong. You do the same thing with other spiritual energy practices, but it's just what path you take to get there. So when yoga was adopted by a lot of Western cultures, they focused on the body aspect a lot more and didn't really emphasize or pick up on the soul or spirit energy, and then to a lesser extent of the body, the mind. So the body was emphasized, then the mind was behind, and then the soul was at the very bottom. So true practice is the integration and flow of all three of them.
Yeah. Well, I know in my own yoga practice, I've been a practitioner for about 30 years. I think back in the day, if I can say, there was more of a mind body aspect, definitely anchored in the breath, which is leads you into that meditative state, which I think then, and correct me if I'm wrong, can help you integrate the soul into that three-pronged unit.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it depends on where you go and who you practice with, but the breath is what moves our chi. Breath moves prana. Prana is the same as chi. So prana is the word for life force energy in yoga, and chi in traditional Chinese medicine. And breath work helps to move the chi.
Okay.
So we can harness our breath as well as other things to help move our energy to where we need it to be.
It's been life-changing for me, breath work.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of even on a very basic level, just managing anxiety, and, people are very familiar with, breathing exercises and square breaths and that sort of thing to sort of calm your nervous system. But it also can teach us so much more. What else can breath work bring to our daily life?
So from a physical aspect, right? Our breath, our inhales oxygenate our cells, our body revitalizes us. And at the same time as we exhale, we're releasing everything we no longer need. We're releasing carbon dioxide, toxins. You exhale fat, you exhale other things you don't need. So the practice of breathing is literally life-giving, which is why it's intrinsically tied to life force energy. And when you become more connected to your breath, you become more connected to your body. And when you become more connected to your breath and body, you start to release that focus on the monkey mind chatter, because a lot of us are in our head all the time. And when we are focused on those endless running thoughts in our head, that takes energy. Everything takes energy. When you release that by breathing through breath work and becoming more focused on your breath and your body, you allow that energy to move from your thoughts that aren't helping us down into your body and into your organs and systems to help you with your physical health, but also your mental well-being.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense to me.
So, Jane, I'm an old dog with some very ingrained bad habits. I can remember for years just suddenly realizing I'm not breathing at all. My stomach is clenched and I'm holding my breath. And this would happen often. I'm just wondering, these practices, are they something that can be adopted at any stage of life?
Yeah. Yoga, breath work, qigong, all of this has benefits for anyone at any point in time. You can be bedridden, and as long as you still have the ability to control your mind and control your breath, you can still do this work. And by doing that, you start to cultivate and harness your energy. You give less of your energy to thoughts, patterns that are negative or unnecessary or unhelpful, and you bring more of your energy to being present, being embodied, feeling your true self, and helping the energy to flow within you, and which helps you feel better.
For younger people as well, it's a great way to start off young people with the right mindset, before they encounter a lot of stress in their life.
Yeah, it's a practice that will always help you come back to center and know what can you control and what you can't control and what to let go of, right? Because most of the time we get caught up in what we can't control. And especially as young people, I see it with my daughter and others, they worry about what may potentially happen in the future and it usually doesn't happen. And then that causes a lot of anxiety and stress. And when they have the awareness, the focus, and ability to harness their energy and become the observer and the master of their thoughts instead of just letting it run without them, then it changes things and they will feel differently.
Yeah, I imagine there's a feeling of empowerment too.
Yeah.
Another, I think, misconception some people might have is that you have to choose one way or the other in terms of Western medicine or some different practices. How can energy and healing practices work together with Western medicine to reinforce our health?
I always tell people, and I speak with and work with a lot of cancer patients, that you know yourself best. You know your body best. Like doctors are not above you. They might spend 5 minutes with your file and move on, but you've lived your entire life with your body. So you need to feel for yourself what feels right for you. Like you will know when you try something if it feels right for you. And in terms of energy work, these practices, there are no contraindications with Western medicine. There may be things, for example, if you're taking traditional Chinese medicine herbs and then you're also taking Western medications, there may be contraindications there. But if you're doing energy practices, that is not going to interfere with Western prescriptions, or basically it's just a prescription or surgery, right? So one of those two, and they won't interfere with that. How I like to think of it is from a Western perspective, you're kind of more passive. You're the passive participant. You're waiting for the doctor to give you a prescription for a pill to take to address your symptom, not the root cause, the symptom, or they're going to tell you we need to cut a part of your body, which is, now I understand that that's ludicrous in some ways because you can heal those parts of your body. Whereas in a lot of these Eastern practices, you see and treat your whole self and your whole body, and you have more agency. You are an active participant. You can do the breath work, you can do the movement, you can do the meditation, because you know that you have a role to play in the management of your health. And so you can absolutely marry the two together. And what I think is the most important, regardless of what you do, is to take ownership of your own health and advocate for yourself instead of leaving it at the hands of others.
Mm-hmm. It's such a beautiful idea to be able to think about, your wellness as sort of a fabric and weaving different aspects of wellness and healing together to benefit you and what you need. In terms of our wellness and supporting our wellness day to day, is there an easy way to begin?
For me, I always tell people, go with what resonates with you. Let's say you try different things and you tried a yoga class, like, I don't like that class. I don't like yoga. It's going to be different depending on the class you take, the teacher you are taking it with, or the type of practice they're teaching. So I always say, try different things, try different teachers. I may not be the teacher for you. I may not be. And there's no ego involved. Like, you have to find what's best for you at your point in time, and you will feel it. You will know. And so I say, go to what feels best for you. And that could be simple ways. So regardless of what you're doing, you can start by just tuning into your body, tuning into your breath. So slowing down, dropping from the head to the heart, and then just start listening to your breath and feeling it moving in and out of your chest. And every time your mind wanders and you get distracted, you go back to your head, you think about what you need to do next, and you become aware of that. You let that go and you go back again and again and again. So that's one easy way to just start. It's about becoming more attuned to yourself and your energy in your body. And whatever path feels best for you, the one you should take.
It's your plan. It's your personal plan, your personal journey, and there's no right and wrong. It's just what's right for you then.
100%.
I'm breathing deeper just as we're speaking here. Now, you've authored a #1 bestseller on Amazon entitled The Answer: How to Get the Best Answers to Your Life's Biggest Questions. Can you tell us about what we might learn by reading it?
Yeah. So with this book, this happened while I was, in the latter stages of, I don't think anyone's ever 100% healed. I'll say you're always on a healing journey. So
right.
It was when I was in healing journey in the last number of years, but it kind of just came to me, honestly. I did not have an intention to write it. I woke up when I was awake in the middle of the night and I couldn't fall back asleep. And I had heard that that's when the veil is thinnest and when you can hear from the other side or messages or be more attuned. And I was just frankly annoyed. And in my mind, I said, if you want to tell me something, because I want to go back to sleep. And I literally just felt the book come to me. And in like a moment, I knew the whole book and what it was about. And I fell asleep. And after that, I thought, why would I write a book? I've never thought about writing a book. And time passed. And I remember talking about it with my husband. And he said, you write every single day. And I write in my journal every day. And I thought, I do write every day. And after 6 months, I finally felt like writing a book. And then I started writing it, and it came very effortlessly.
Yeah.
And it shares stories, but mostly techniques and tools on how to get the best answers to your life's biggest questions by tuning into your body, your intuition. You'll learn how to connect to your body. I give exercises on meditation, breath work. I talk about journaling, inner work. I talk about dream interpretation. So different things. The point is I want people to become more aware and attuned.
Well, it sounds like a beautiful compass for people to use on their journey. We'd like to share a link to Jane's book in our show notes. And if you would like to find her online, you can go to www.purelyjane.com or on Instagram at @purely_Jane. Thanks so much, Jane. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for your time today, Laura and Heather. I really appreciate it.
Okay, I don't know what you were expecting from that interview, but I absolutely loved it. And I can't believe how much I took away from her own personal story.
Well, it still needs time to sink in with me.
Yeah.
But just speaking with her, like I said, my breath was deeper. Mm-hmm. I could feel tension starting to relax, mm-hmm. and very, very, very inspiring story.
Yeah, she has a very calming, beautiful energy about her. And I think also it was a courageous story, mm-hmm. right? It's not something that everybody will believe, buy into, but I think it's very important to share because there will be people out there who really need to hear it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so very, very powerful. And one thing I took away from it too was that there's always some way we can level up our health and well-being. It kind of reminds me of that book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Did you ever read that?
Yes.
Yeah. Like through affirmations and meditation, all kinds of things, you can actually heal your body, just like Jane was saying. And Louise Hay, she healed herself from terminal cancer. And that's sort of what launched her into her career.
Well, there seems to be many more avenues in terms of healing ourselves outside of conventional medicine, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
If you're open to it, there's so many resources to find that can work for you. I know I personally follow many practitioners online in terms of my social media feed.
Yep.
And I have to say that the Eastern approach to health and healing offers us a route that is a bit of a lifeline for people who may be suffering from medical issues or symptoms, I should say, that are a little bit in the gray. Like I personally suffer from autoimmune issues. And for the last 25 years, it's been a real struggle for Western medicine to try and figure me out.
Yeah, to pin it down. It's a little bit of a mystery, those autoimmune diseases.
It's been exhausting in itself, just having to go through the process.
Absolutely. It's tough. My husband, as you know, has suffered as well for decades. And, you know, he's had all kinds of medications and he's even had surgeries, and nothing really has addressed what the root cause of the issue is. So now he's seeking support with a naturopath and through traditional Chinese medicine. And I'd love to get him to see Jane.
And so how's that going for him?
Well, now there's hope. Whereas before, I think, you know, Western medicine just kind of threw up their hands. They really didn't know what to do with him. So they just thought, okay, well, let's just try and manage his pain. That's what he struggles with mostly, is chronic pain. But what he discovered was that Western medicine really looked at him as, you know, parts and not parts of a whole, but just siloed pieces of the body. So if his shoulder was sore, then they would, you know, fix the shoulder. Or if it was his knee that was sore, they would try and address the knee or whatever. Or if it was a mood issue, they would try and address the mood. But they didn't really look at what could be the cause of all of these symptoms. Whereas Eastern philosophies really look at the body as a whole, which seems to be the right approach for some of these more mysterious ailments.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think that there have been sweeping changes, though, in our attitudes towards healing ourselves in the West over the past, you know, few decades. It's been growing, this change. For instance, I was in the pharmacy just a couple of weeks ago, and it struck me that, you know, not too long ago, where you would walk into a pharmacy and the shelves would be purely multivitamins.
Yeah.
You know, and now we have all these wonderful herbal supplements available.
Yeah.
And they've got prime locations on the shelves. They're not hidden away in a corner somewhere.
Yeah, they've become more mainstream. I think there is a lot more acceptance, too, within Western medical practice of some scientifically tested alternative therapies as well.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's a good time now to say that it's best to do your research as well before taking too many supplements, especially in combination with medications, right?
Yeah. And Jane did mention that too. There can be contraindications between pharmaceuticals and traditional Chinese herbs or that kind of thing. So best to check it out with your doctor.
And speaking of herbs, what's your knowledge in terms of Chinese herbs? Do you have a good working knowledge?
No, not really, because I actually don't speak the language, so I couldn't ever read the labels, but I have a really wonderful acupuncturist, and I have had Chinese herbal therapy for symptoms of menopause, and in conjunction with acupuncture and cupping.
So did it work?
It helped, but it didn't really entirely take away the symptoms that I was struggling with, which were hot flashes.
Okay.
But acupuncture has been life-changing for other medical issues that I've had. But everybody's different, right? And every issue is different.
Oh, for sure. Now, I had cupping. And I have to tell you one, here's a little tip. Don't ever go for a cupping session and then plan to go to the beach the next day.
Right, or do like a swimsuit photo shoot.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me. I remember decades ago when I worked in early childhood. One of the little daycare kids had been for a cupping session.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there were some of the staff who were totally freaked out because they were completely unfamiliar with it. And they're like,
for sure.
oh my God, is this, some kind of, abuse
Virus
situation?
or something, yeah.
Yeah, no, quite the opposite. So what happens in cupping, for those people who don't know, they are usually glass or I think maybe porcelain cups, but
I think some are bamboo as well.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. And they are suctioned to your skin, and generally speaking, in the areas that show up more darkly, that more blood has come to the surface.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Those are the areas in your body that have needed some healing. But the suction is believed to help with pain.
Okay.
And WebMD describes what's happening specifically. Suction from cupping draws fluid into the treated area, and this suction force expands and breaks open tiny blood vessels, capillaries, under your skin. Your body replenishes the cupped areas with healthier blood flow and stimulates proper and normal healing at a cellular level. Because of this effect, some people think that cupping releases toxins.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the mind-body connection? Do you believe that if we care for our minds, the bodies will be well as well?
Yeah, most definitely. It goes kind of back to what Jane was talking about, as well as, that reference I made to Louise Hay. I think there's great healing power in meditation.
Now, I've meditated and I've taken part in restorative yoga as well, but I have to admit, I'm inconsistent.
Yeah.
And I haven't taken part in yoga for many years now.
Well, it's time to unroll that mat, Walker. Let's get going.
I think I will. I know exactly where it is.
Yeah, there you
Rolled
go.
up beside where I watch Netflix.
Oh, excellent. You could do it while you watch Netflix.
Well, there we go.
But what you should really try
Yeah.
is qigong.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's so great. It's so great. I'm a newbie, as I said in our conversation with Jane, to qigong, but I practice yoga regularly, and I belong to a sangha, which is like this wee little meditation group of beyond beautiful women. And I just find it's a real touchstone in my life.
Well, I would really like to practice meditation more regularly, but I have a bit of a problem. I tend to fall asleep a lot.
It can happen. So are you sitting up when you meditate?
Actually, yes.
Oh.
And I have this one story back in grad school. Oh my gosh, it was so embarrassing. I was in a group of about 25 people that took a meditation course.
Yeah.
It was an intro to meditation. And I was sitting there in a classroom with the lights on.
Yeah.
And I literally fell asleep. And then when I woke up, the person who I went with to the class actually gave me a little elbow to wake me up. And the instructor said, well, clearly, some people in the class, this session's working better than for others. And he was speaking to me.
Do you think you were doing like the old head bob? Or did you actually, I would fall over if I fell asleep sitting up.
Yeah, you would think, right?
Yeah.
No, I was pretty sturdy.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I'm just glad I didn't go, I'll do one of those. I've done that during acupuncture.
Oh, you have?
I have. They put this thin metal blanket on top
Oh,
of
yeah.
it.
It's so awesome. With a heat lamp.
It was wonderful.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's something our listeners should know, that acupuncture, even though a lot of people are scared about it, it's so relaxing. Did you snore, do you think, when you were in that class?
Well, I don't know. Nobody told me. Anything's possible, right?
I hope you didn't. I love meditation, and I don't tend to fall asleep, though it has happened to me too. But I'm not as consistent either as I would like to be. But when I am consistent, multiple times a week, I don't know, it just gives you space in your day. You don't feel like you're, constantly behind the 8 ball, running to the next thing.
Maybe that's what my problem is. I really need to make it more of a practice in my regular routine.
Mm-hmm.
Deepak Chopra, he said, if you say you don't have time to do meditation once a day, then you're the one who probably needs to do it twice a day.
Oh,
and that really resonated with me for sure. So you mentioned that acupuncture has really worked for you. In what way? What was the reason you went, and what was your experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, my husband had really severe migraines, and he had had them since he was a kid. Mm-hmm. And he found this amazing acupuncturist just at the end of our street, actually. And after about 6 weeks, he did not have another migraine, has not had one since. Yeah. Every so often he has to go for a top up. And, I know people are stressed out about the needles.
Absolutely.
Right?
People get really stressed about that.
Yeah.
My daughter. They go very deep.
Oh, they hardly go in at all. My daughter, who's super needle phobic, like ran away from having to get her vaccines when she was little. She goes to acupuncture and finds it relaxing. So if she can do it, anybody can do it.
And so what did she have it for?
She had it for migraines too, and it did help. I think the needles are meant to activate the 14 meridians in the body, which channels our energy. Did you know that 3 million people in the US do acupuncture, and it's even more popular in other parts of the world?
I did not know that.
It's a lot.
So I'm curious, based on your experience, did you have to go regularly or did you find that once your symptoms were alleviated, you could stop? Like, is it something you had to keep doing?
Yeah, I think with anything, if you want to see progress and improvement and change, it's something you have to do consistently. Right? Like whether it's meditation or eating properly or sleeping properly, like you have to do it over and over again to see change. And it's the same thing with acupuncture. In the beginning, depending on what your issue is, generally speaking, you might have to go 1 or 2 times a week for a few weeks, and then you can space it out, and then you can just go for like a tune-up when you need it, that kind of thing. But, you speak to your practitioner about it and they'll figure it out for you. It can get a little pricey, though, I have to say, Walker.
Well, and that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, I think they're curious to see how they might benefit from it, but they are concerned that maybe that it's not covered.
It's
under
unaffordable.
Their insurance and, all of that. And it's an important concern.
Yeah. A lot of plans these days now are covering at least a portion of it, which is really great to see. And again, it kind of speaks to the fact that,
change that's happening.
We're starting to adopt some of these practices as actually adding value to our lives. And insurance can even sometimes cover massage therapy or even like Reiki.
So speaking of Reiki is something that fascinates me, but I don't know a lot about Reiki.
I don't know a lot about Reiki either. I don't know enough about Reiki. According to the International Center for Reiki Training, the word Reiki is made up of 2 Japanese words, rei, which means God's wisdom or the higher power, and ki, which is the life force energy, like chi. So Reiki is actually spiritually guided life force energy.
Well, I like the sounds of that. That sounds lovely, doesn't it?
Well, it sounds a lot like what Jane was experiencing that time in her retreat, right?
Does.
She discovered that she had this ability to, manipulate or guide that life force energy. And it's actually quite remarkable. I had distance Reiki, so I wasn't even in person with the Reiki master during COVID because we couldn't be. It was during lockdown. And it was actually one of our past guests, Fabio da Silva Fernandez, who is a Reiki master. And I did a few sessions. I literally felt lighter. But it's known to relieve stress, promote relaxation and healing in the body. So the Reiki master guides that life force energy for optimum flow to areas of the body, mind, or spirit that might need healing and release. And it's a great complement to other therapies. I'm actually considering taking my level 1 Reiki, I think in January, just to understand it better. Not to practice it, but just to really get a grasp on what's going on.
Lifelong learning.
You got it, baby. I'm a little curious. About
Well, I think that's really cool. I haven't personally had a Reiki session, but I have been present when a friend of mine who is in hospice was having a session. And, it seemed to bring them quite a bit of comfort.
There's something very relaxing. And at the end of the day, we all need to seek the care and treatment that best suits our own needs and beliefs, like Jane was also saying, right?
Exactly.
Pick something that resonates with you and try new things. And it can look any which way. It could combine conventional plus alternative therapies or one or the other. You do what suits you.
It's funny you mentioned that because during that conversation with Jane, I was thinking about how you may not be interested in something may not resonate with you now, but it may 6 months later.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised if you come full circle again, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you know what that makes me think too is that there is power in journaling, even though I'm a little journal averse. To write it down and be able to kind of go back and reflect as time passes might also be valuable in your healing journey. Yeah, I think you just really have to figure out what is the right fit for you. Like integrative medicine. Have you heard of integrative medicine?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, it combines both conventional and alternative therapies, and it's become much more in demand in the US, but it's starting to gain traction in Canada too.
That says a lot, doesn't it, about our changing ideas and what may be missing that we're searching for in terms of our approach to our health.
Yeah, trying to fill in some of those gaps. The Mayo Clinic defines integrative medicine as medicine that combines the most well-researched conventional medicine with the most well-researched evidence-based complementary therapies, formerly known as alternative therapies, to achieve the appropriate care for each person.
Well, sounds like the right way forward, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds really individualized. It's actually now regarded as a subspecialty in the US, but though there's movement to do the same here in Canada, we're not quite there yet.
Well, it just makes sense from a patient care perspective and perhaps a cost perspective here as well. For the time being, though, it's always a good practice to consult a licensed medical practitioner before engaging in any medical treatment, conventional or alternative.
Most definitely. We're lucky, I think, Walker, to be living in these times because we have the benefit of the wisdom of the ancients, and we also have those modern minds too.
Thank you for joining us at Home and Abroad with your host, Harrison Walker. If you enjoyed this episode, you would be a real gem if you would rate and review our show. It helps us grow and expand our reach. You can also subscribe to follow us each week as we continue the conversation. Find us on Instagram at Harrison Walker or visit us at www.harrisonwalker.com. We have great merch, just saying, and of course, we would love to hear from you.